High in the Peruvian Andes, shrouded in perpetual mist and wrapped in the roots of time, there lies a temple that speaks without words. It whispers through its stones, it chants through tunnels, and it roars like thunder in the hearts of those who enter. This is Chavín de Huántar, not just a ruin, but a relic of an ancient spiritual revolution. Long before the Inca, centuries before the Nazca etched sacred lines into the desert, the Chavín stood as the first architects of Andean civilization. They did not conquer with bronze or blood, but with symbols, sound, and sacred experience. Their influence stretched like the condor's wings across mountains and valleys. Coastal fishers, jungle traders, and highland shepherds all made pilgrimage to this temple built into living stone. Here they drank from the cactus of vision. They heard God speak through trumpets of conch. They walked labyrinths in darkness and emerged transformed. Who were the Chavín? Why did their rituals echo across centuries? How did their underground temples and hybrid gods become the blueprint for all that followed in the Andes? This is their story, a story of unification without empire, of transcendence through trance, of voices from the underworld that still echo in stone. Welcome to Between Gods and Warriors. This is the sacred science, the mythic mastery, and the spiritual power of the Chavín. In a world of fragmented tribes and isolated valleys, the Chavín did the unthinkable. They built a spiritual alliance, not through domination, but through vision. From around 900 BCE, Chavín de Huántar became a gravitational center in the Andean world. It was not a capital in the political sense. It was a sanctuary, a pilgrimage site, a living oracle that pulled people from across the Andes into its sacred orbit. Artifacts discovered from distant regions, coastal shells, Amazonian feathers, jungle resins, and highland textiles, prove that pilgrims came from every direction. And what they found was not conquest, but cosmic alignment. The Chavín offered a new kind of unity, one bound by shared symbols, sacred sounds, and a pantheon of hybrid deities. Through ritual, they reshaped reality itself. They gave language to the unseen, and in doing so, they created the first pan-Andean religious system. Imagine a caravan arriving after weeks of travel, highlanders wrapped in llama wool, jungle emissaries with bird feathers in their braids, all gathered under one sky, entering the temple with offerings, and emerging with a new way to see the cosmos. As they approach the temple, the jungle emissary touches the carved face on the wall, its fangs and eyes familiar from a dream. He whispers a prayer in his tongue. The mountain rumbles softly. A priest waves them in. The wind carries incense, and the shadows beckon. Another man, a fisherman from the coast, kneels beside a pool. He sees not his reflection, but a god rising in the ripples, half serpent, half eagle. His heart races, but he feels no fear. Only recognition. The Chavín had no empire, yet their gods ruled mountains. They had no army, yet their vision marched across centuries. It was the beginning of something vast, a spiritual grid that still pulses beneath the Andes. Chavín de Huántar is more than stone. It is spiritual technology. This was no mere temple, it was a machine for transcendence. Built into a living mountain, the structure is a maze of underground galleries, drainage channels, elevated platforms, and ceremonial courtyards. But it's what happens inside that defies imagination. The architects of Chavín understood not just space, but sensation. The temple was designed to control light, shadow, air, and sound. As initiates moved deeper into its corridors, they were enveloped in darkness. Their senses dulled, then sharpened, and in the pitch black, they would hear it, the voice of the gods. This voice came not from the heavens, but from the pututu, conch shell trumpets blown by priests in hidden chambers. These sounds echoed through the narrow galleries, creating booming, inhuman voices that seemed to come from the very stone. It was not music, it was a summoning. Imagine a pilgrim crawls through a narrow passageway, blinded by absence of light. Suddenly, a roar trembles the walls. He falls to his knees, believing the mountain speaks. In that moment of awe, fear becomes faith. Another initiate walks alone in silence, his hand brushing against cool stone. From the darkness ahead, light flickers, then fades. The hallway breathes. The stone walls close in, not with pressure, but with presence. The sound of the pututu returns, this time not distant but inside his chest. He feels it vibrate his bones. His breath matches the echo. He forgets where he ends and where the temple begins. Scholars have confirmed the acoustic properties of Chavin's design were intentional. The architecture induces disorientation, awe, and altered states, all without a single word spoken. Every angle, every echo, every shadow was part of a larger language, one not spoken, but experienced. Chavín de Huántar wasn't built to impress the eyes, it was built to open the spirit. The Chavín did not just build architecture, they cultivated pathways of perception. And at the heart of their visionary tradition was the sacred San Pedro cactus, a plant known for its potent psychoactive properties. Used in ritual by Chavín shamans, San Pedro was not taken recreationally, but reverently. It was a gate, a tool to dissolve the physical senses and enter the spirit realms. This cactus, whose use spans over 3 millennia, allowed initiates to experience what the eyes could not see: gods with many faces, animals that spoke in riddles, ancestors made of light and wind. In a ritual chamber, a novice drinks the bitter brew. His body becomes heavy. The shadows move. A jaguar steps into the circle, not walking but floating. Behind it, a serpent of stars coils upward into a void. The initiate weeps, not in fear, but in revelation. The gods are not above. They are within. He opens his mouth to speak, but no words come. Instead, 1,000 symbols flood his vision. Eyes within eyes, hands that open into flames, faces that split and spiral. He is not dreaming. He is remembering. He sees a child, then an old man, a hummingbird made of smoke. The sound of the conch echoes from deep inside his mind. Time no longer moves forward. It ripples outward. Archaeological findings, including cactus residues in ceremonial vessels and iconography of beings in altered states, confirm the ritual use of entheogens at Chavín. The experience was not for escape, it was for transformation. To walk the San Pedro path was to let the self dissolve, so that what remained could be reborn aligned with divine will. In this altered state, the temple came alive. The walls pulsed, the gods breathed, and the veil between worlds grew thin as mist. Hidden deep within the labyrinthine heart of Chavín de Huántar lies its most sacred secret, the Lanzón. Towering at over 4.5 meters tall, this granite monolith is not simply a statue. It is a living axis, a point where all realms converge: sky, earth, and underworld. Carved with precision and cosmic vision, the Lanzón fuses feline fangs, serpentine coils, avian claws, and human form. Its eyes gaze both forward and inward. Its mouth snarls in stillness. Every line, every spiral, is both symbol and sentence, a sacred scripture written in stone. It was placed at the center of the old temple, where no natural light could reach. Pilgrims would crawl through utter darkness to face it. Some say it was a test, others a rebirth. A young initiate, trembling with San Pedro coursing through his blood, is led blindfolded through echoing corridors. He hears the roaring conch shells, feels the air vibrate, then silence. The blindfold is lifted. Before him stands the Lanzón. It is not a statue, it is a being, watching, breathing, judging, forgiving. Scholars believe the Lanzón was the embodiment of the primary Chavín deity, a force of duality and fusion. Its upside-down staff, fanged grin, and dynamic posture suggest transformation and the turning of worlds. In the Chavín cosmology, this was the axis mundi, the world pillar, the connection between realms. Not a bridge, but a presence, a god made tangible. Even today, those who visit speak of a shift in energy, a pressure behind the eyes, a feeling of being watched. and welcomed. The Lanzón is not just a relic, it is the pulse of Chavín. It is the voice of the temple. It is the God that never left. Though the Chavín civilization faded by around 200 BCE, their spiritual architecture, artistic styles, and mythic frameworks echoed across centuries, etched into the DNA of future Andean cultures. Archaeologists have traced Chavín iconography, fangs, dual-faced figures, sacred animals, through the Moche temples of the north coast, the intricate geoglyphs of the Nazca, and later the cosmology of the Inca themselves. The Moche would inherit and reinterpret the power of sacred hybrid beings, representing them in pottery and ceremonial knives. The Nazca, in turn, carved vast lines, some resembling Chavín symbols, across the desert to commune with sky spirits. And the Inca, at the height of their empire, revered the same dualities of dark and light, upper and lower world, serpent and condor. In an Inca temple atop Cusco, a priest recites a chant to the thunder god. Behind him, carved into the stone wall, the shape of a jaguar serpent glimmers in the torchlight. He does not know the name Chavín, but the spirit is the same. Even today in Quechua and Aymara communities, echoes remain. The use of sacred plants, the belief in mountains as living spirits, the concept of the world as a layered reality. This is Chavín speaking across time. The Chavín were not forgotten. They were reborn again and again, inside new temples, new gods, new rituals. Their legacy is not a ruin, it is a resonance. We often marvel at what the ancients left behind, but rarely ask, who were the ones who built it? The Chavín temple was not a spontaneous creation. It was the work of master engineers, visionaries, and ritual architects. Men and women who understood that stone was not dead material, but sacred flesh. That rivers must be channeled not just for water, but for spiritual flow. They carved galleries to align with solstices, designed canals that sang as water rushed through, placed statues where shadows would fall only during equinoxes. Everything in Chavín de Huántar was intentional, a dialogue between earth, sky, and human breath. A young stonemason apprentice places his hand on a granite slab. His elder draws sacred patterns in the dust, lines that mimic constellations. They are not building a wall, they are weaving heaven into the mountain. It is believed that these builders were also initiates, trained in sacred rites as well as construction. They fasted before major projects. They chanted over the tools. Each cut into stone was a ritual act, not labor. Even the materials were symbolic. Granite for strength and permanence. Black limestone for death in the underworld. White quartz for vision and divine presence. To the builders of Chavín, the temple was not just a place to worship gods. It was a god, a being they were helping to shape, awaken, and house in stone. Their names may be lost, but their sacred fingerprints remain. The story of the Chavín is not just a tale of stones and rituals. It is a mirror, a reflection of what happens when humans reach beyond the visible, daring to touch the ineffable. In the shadowed chambers of Chavín de Huántar, pilgrims surrendered their senses not to lose themselves, but to remember something older, something deeper, a voice before language, a power before kings. The Chavín remind us that civilization is not only built with walls and weapons, but with symbols, sounds, and sacred dreams. Their legacy endures not in monuments alone, but in the very concept of the sacred journey. The idea that one can cross into mystery, face the unknown, and return with wisdom. Today, the winds still howl through the Andean passes. The temple still stands, weathered but unbroken. And within its silence, something stirs. If you ever find yourself standing before those ancient stones, listen closely. The god may still be whispering, because Chavín was never just a place, it was and still is a path. If this journey into the depths of Chavín moved you, honor it by liking, sharing, and subscribing to Between Gods and Warriors. And if you hunger for more ancient mysteries, don't miss our deep dive into the mysteries of the Moche civilization. waiting for you in the next episodes. Until then, keep walking the path between God and warriors.